Hi everyone, welcome back. In this lecture, we will discuss at after all annotation. Well, in previous lecture, we have discussed at before all annotation, which we can use to mark a method that runs once before any test method in a test class, right? The at after all annotation we use to mark a method that should be executed once after all test method in a test class. Well, whenever you want to mark a method that should be executed once after all test methods in a test class, then you can go ahead and annotate that method with at after all annotation. This is useful for cleaning up shared resources such as closing database connection or setting down a server. Well, whenever you want to close the database connection or shut down the server after executing all the test methods in a test class, then what you can do is you can create a method and annotate that method with at after all annotation. Next, at after all annotated method must be static, as we are going to clean up the shared resources. So make sure that you make method as a static. It ensures cleanup after all tests have run. For example, closing the database connection or setting down a server. Well, once we execute all the test methods in a test class, we should have to close the database connection or we have to shut down the server, right? So this at after all annotation ensures cleanup after all tests have run in a test class. Next, let us go and let's understand at after all annotation more with example. So let us head over to our project in IntelliJ IDEA, and here go to annotations package, and here we have before all demo test class. So just copy this class and go to annotations package, just paste it, and let's give a name as after all demo test. Well, in previous lecture we have discussed at after all annotation that runs before any test method in a test class. Next, let us see how to use at after all annotation. So here let's create a static method, static void. Let's give method name as tear down after class. Alright, and let's annotate this method with at after all annotation. And make sure that you choose at after all annotation from org JUnit Jupyter API package. Perfect. So within this method you can write a logic to clean up the shared resources. In this example, we can release this calculator object by assigning a null value. For example, calculator equal to null. Okay, but in real-time project we typically write a logic like closing the database connection or setting down the server. Okay, so basically we write a logic to release the resources or close the connections. Next, in order to make sure that this method is calling once after any test method in a test class, we can put the system.out.println and we can test that. So here just put the system.out.println and just give the statement like tear down after class method is calling. Next, let us run the test class and let us see how this method works. So from here, let's run the test class. Notice here test passed 4 and look at the statements in a result. Tear down after class method is calling. So this statement is printed only once. It means the method which we annotated with at after all annotation executed once after all the test method in a test class. Okay, and even if we run the single test method, this method should call only once after that test case. You can see tear down after class method is calling. Well, whenever you want to mark a method that should be executed once after all the test methods in a test class, then you can go ahead and annotate that method with at after all annotation. And this at after all annotation is useful for cleaning up the shared resources such as closing the database connection or setting down a server. And make sure that you mark this at after all annotated method must be static. Okay, great. In next lecture we will take a look into other JUnit annotations. Alright, great. I will see you in the next lecture.